Bicycles are one of the most common methods of transportation on this planet. As of 2013, there is estimated to be over 1 billion in use worldwide, approximately double that of automobiles. Unsurprisingly, in 2011, the industry market had an estimated trade value of $61 billion. Roughly 130 million bicycles are sold yearly, 2/3 of which are produced in China.
In this chart, we can see that the global bicycle industry value chain begins with inputs. Metals are the most important input material because they make up the frame, which accounts for 49% of the cost to make a bike. These input metals include steel, aluminum, titanium, and carbon fiber. China dominates the aluminum industry and Japan dominates the titanium industry. This is significant because it means that the input factories for these materials are located in Asia, giving Asian bike component manufacturers and bike manufacturers a major advantage by reducing transportation costs. In the 1960s, the bike industry was producer-driven, favoring bicycle manufacturing companies that were highly consolidated. At this point, entering the industry required companies to make capital and technology investments and economies of scale in order to compete. However, after the mountain biking consumer trend in the late 1960s, the industry became buyer-driven as the barriers to entry were erased. None of the existing companies had components that could be used to make mountain bikes, but Shimano, a Japanese company, had begun component manufacturing in 1958, giving it an early advantage. Shimano quickly became the largest parts manufacturer with 80% market share. The company's focus on research and development, bundling practices, and low labor costs from producing in countries in Asia also contributed to their success. Two direct competitors include SRAM and Campagnolo, but neither company is as successful as Shimano. Since bike manufacturers were originally highly consolidated with high barriers to entry, they were the most powerful part of the value chain. Prior to the mountain biking consumer trend, Schwinn and Peugeot were the most powerful bike manufacturers. However, the change in consumer trends opened the bike industry to new players. At this point, specialized component manufacturers became more powerful than bike manufacturers. It is also important to note that bike manufacturers who produce their own parts are still powerful in the value chain. One example of this is Giant. They were successful early on by benefiting from low-cost labor in Taiwan and by partnering with Schwinn to gain access to valuable information. This allowed them to grow into the largest bicycle manufacturer in the world. Giant is also a major reason that China is responsible for 43% of global bike exports. In terms of distribution channels, mass merchants are responsible for 70% of unit sales, but only 27% of dollars from bicycle sales. Specialty bicycle retailers, on the other hand, are responsible for 18% of unit sales, but 55% of dollars from bicycle sales. Mass merchants have clearly been successful in selling large amounts of lower quality bicycles, but specialty retailers have succeeded in selling high quality bicycles.
The bicycle industry has remained relatively static within the past decade in terms of key players and their market share held. China has dominated the bicycle export market with over 40% of the market share. Its competitors trail with market shares around 10% or less. The Netherlands and Germany are the two next largest exporters after China. A unit analysis of these top three exporters reveals an interesting contrast between the countries' industries. Although China dominates the industry in total value of exports, it has the lowest average unit price per bicycle exported compared with its top competitors. The Netherlands, which trails China in total export value by over $2 billion, has the highest unit price per bicycle exported. Germany has a mid-range unit price and is the third top exporter of bicycles. The bicycle import market has some different key players. The United States tops the import market, although its market share has been steadily decreasing for the past 10 years. All other top importers have maintained steady import market shares. Japan, Germany, the United Kingdom, and the Netherlands, which all have popular cycling cultures, significantly increased their imports over the past decade. An interesting thing to note is that both Germany and the Netherlands are top importers and exporters of bicycles. Germany and the Netherlands are important trade partners with one another and both export and import bicycles to one another. Cycling is very popular in both countries, which may explain both their high export and import rates of bicycles.
Today, China exports 43% of the world's bikes and 93% of US's bikes. The bicycle has its roots in Europe, where cycling is one of the most popular sports and where it is an extremely common mode of transportation, as European countries have cycling favor policies that support this. A bike boom in the 1980s occurred in the US, and European manufacturers could no longer meet this high demand, so Shimano, a Japanese parts manufacturer, stepped into the scene and took advantage of this opportunity. Today, the more well-known brands are mostly headquartered in the US, Japan, and across Europe, but recent production has mainly been in China, followed by the Netherlands and Germany. However, the focus should not be on these more developed countries, but rather on the countries in Southeast Asia, such as Cambodia, Thailand, and Vietnam. With the global trend of sourcing manufacturing to China due to their well-known low wages and efficient workforce, China's wages have been on the rise. Due to their rise in standard of living, and companies are now looking for new locations to source to. According to The Economist, Giant Manufacturing, a Taiwanese company that is one of the top exporters to European bike companies, used to manufacture in China, but is now heavily investing in Cambodia due to its lower wages and similar quality of a product that can be produced. Cambodia's lowest wage is about 15% that of China's current low wages in the bike business. Brazil and Mexico are also gaining investments from bike companies. Being that producing a bike is a process with high maturity and needs to be done in mass production, it can be moved around and be done anywhere with low costs, as long as directions are clear, no failures occur, and quality is maintained. Because the bicycle industry has no barriers to entry, anyone can enter the high competition, and all that's necessary is a brand name and a reputation. Giant Manufacturing and other like companies would need to improve on its innovation, differentiation, and its cost efficiency to maintain a stronghold in the business. Electric-powered bikes, also known as e-bikes, are experiencing a growth rate of 7.5% a year and have companies from both the automobile industry and the bike industry competing in this market. It is expected that 47 million units of e-bikes are sold in 2018, 42 million of which are from China, giving it 89% of the total world market. It will be interesting to watch where e-bike manufacturing moves to, seeing as bikes and their components are moving to Southeast Asian countries and Brazil, and batteries are gaining ground the fastest in South Korea.
The bicycle industry is impacted by a number of environmental and social factors. The three main environmental factors are local infrastructure, topography, and climate. Local infrastructure deals with the facilities provided within the settlement the target market is residing. The most common methods involve separating cyclists from other forms of transport through the provision of either bicycle lanes or separate paths. Aggregated research has shown a strong correlation with cycling levels, especially bike lanes. However, more specific city-based research has showed either limited effects or a preference to bike paths. For instance, a study conducted in Seattle, Washington, found that the bike lanes were ineffective, yet bike paths encouraged local cycling levels. In the long run, the trend towards bike lanes is stronger than ever as more experienced cyclists prefer the time efficiency of lanes to paths. There are numerous other factors, and these are covered in more detail within the website. The local topography of an area is anecdotally seen as a big factor in the levels of cycling in a region. Little research has been conducted with regards to this matter, yet it is often frequently discussed in cycling implementation discussions as a hindrance to cycling levels. Yet San Francisco and Portland, which are two of the hilliest cities in the US, have two of the highest levels of cycling in the country. Wind, rain, and snow are often also seen as a hindrance to cycling, and like topography, research has also discredited the anecdotal negativity associated with these factors. Additionally, Montreal and Vancouver have not found great difficulty overcoming their rain and snow problems in implementing a strong bicycle culture. Socially, the existence of programming measures also affects bicycle levels. Program activities can include media campaigns, promotional activity, and travel awareness programs. These programs can be directed from a number of different organizations, varying from government organizations to green-focused organizations. The impacts of these programs is still under much debate, and the available research is very limited. Anecdotal evidence suggests varying impacts on the levels of cycling in most areas. A number of events in some cities have provided evidence of the capabilities of utilizing programs as a method to encourage cycling. In Victoria, Australia, following a Bike to Work Day, approximately a quarter of first-time cyclists who participated in the event continued cycling to work 5 months following the event. Another important factor is the social status of the bicycle within a culture. Cyclists from more affluent countries, such as the Netherlands, view the bicycle as a convenient and green alternative to driving. Whereas in China, the bicycle is linked to low income levels and will not be used by people who can afford cars for the most part.